say that. My name is Malcolm Ashmore. I'm from Britain. I live in Bogotá. I'm here because I was asked to be here. It's the very strangest talk I've ever given in my life. And I'm a sociologist, but retired from full-time teaching.
Okay, hi everybody, my name is I'm here because I am organizing with Carolina, the meetup group Speak, that is a group to improve your English level and talk and meet new people, practice English. One of the objectives. Nice to meet you. And I will start here. I want you agree with the activity and talk about improve your English, and please tell us any suggestion about that do you have about the activities and the sponsorship and the advertising and all you can talk about, please. And if you like it, please share and talk with your friends and invite your friends.
My name is Jesse. I am from Colombian. I was born in Socorro, Santander, and studied in elementary school in Santander and high school in Bogotá. Actually, I am a Camaro, and I want to study on this meeting because I want to practice English and more people.
Elkin, can you help me please? Sorry, I'm Carolina. I'm also the group of organizer with Elkin. So yeah, we want to help people improve their English. We teamed up with Analita, who's a very good English teacher, and so she's going to help you hopefully by practicing your conversation, help you improve your English skills.
My name is Heriberto. I'm from Bogotá and I'm systems engineer. Actually, I work at Consistelco. I am IT coordinator, and I here because I want to improve my English, hear and speak. This is the reason.
I'm Olga. I'm a professor at the Universidad Nacional. I'm from Bogotá. The reason I'm here is because I came to accompany Malcolm. Because I'm his wife. And he never wants to go anywhere without me.
I'm incapable. Because I have no Spanish.
And I'm Analita. I'm from Trinidad originally. Well, I'm here, as Carolina mentioned previously, to hopefully help everyone to improve their English speaking level and also their listening as well as we speak. And I'm pleased to be here. Thank you.
Right, now this is going to be the worst 15 minutes of your life. Certainly mine, possibly. Anyway.
Oh, I'm sorry, Malcolm. I'm sorry. I just wanted to mention
Please.
that.
Keep mentioning.
Okay, that after Malcolm speaks, guys, please feel free to ask him any questions related to what he said. And I am going to, if you ask a question, since the objective is to help you with your English speaking, I will step in and rephrase the question, right? And then have you say it, ask him again. Okay? Okay. Thank you, Malcolm.
Okay. So I have to explain what I've been doing for the last 40 years in the next 15 minutes. This is not an easy thing to do, I discovered when I was attempting to get this down today. So I chose to give you some introductory material that I've given students in the past, students in Britain and students in Bogotá, who are starting to learn what we call social studies of science. Okay, so this isn't about science, it's about a particular way of studying science, which comes out of the social science, you might want to say, or sociology. Okay? Now, I'm assuming that nobody here knows anything at all about what I'm talking about, except Olga. And so if this is full of stuff you don't understand, I apologise, but I really don't know what to do about that. Okay. So I'm just going to read this thing. Okay. What we're talking about is something called the sociology of scientific knowledge. The sociology of scientific knowledge. This is going to take 2 hours. And that has an acronym. Okay, do you know what an acronym is? It's a TLA, 3-letter acronym. Are you with me? No. SSK, Sociology of Scientific Knowledge. SSK. Okay. So this practice, this form of study, starts by making a break, a radical break, with a very familiar understanding of scientific knowledge, you know, the general understanding of scientific knowledge, which stems from philosophy and which is, I think, pervasive, sort of spread throughout educated culture throughout the world. This view is known by its critics as the standard view or the received view of scientific knowledge. This is not how SSK understands scientific knowledge. But it's the default belief, I think, that most of us grow up with uncritically. I'd be amazed if anybody here doesn't know what I'm talking about when I expound it. This view, this standard view, received view of scientific knowledge, says that modern science is special, even unique, among all the ways that humans have devised to know the world and themselves. All the other kinds of knowledge, those of traditional societies, those of religions, of magic and myth, of the dark ages of the past and the dark continents of the present, purple prose, are essentially local, according to this view, and culturally determined. They can be explained, these other kinds of knowledge, though of course not believed by social sciences like sociology and anthropology. Modern science, however, is not like that. It is universal, not local. The facts of science are demonstrably true everywhere and for all time. I believe you know this story about science. Okay? One aspect of this belief, this understanding of science, which focuses on its universal character, one aspect of that is that scientific knowledge cannot be analysed sociologically through the discipline of sociology. So if you accept this view, this standard view, this universalistic view, it makes anything like a sociology of scientific knowledge not possible. It makes it impossible. Why? Because there is nothing to investigate, essentially. You cannot investigate the causes of truth. True statements, true knowledge, is its own explanation. It explains itself. They are caused by the way the world is. Yeah? This is the view, philosophical view of truth as correspondence to reality. Yeah? Digging myself into a hole. In this view, science is the practice which uniquely has been able to produce statements, claims, which most closely approximate the way the world really is. Knowledge just is that category of statement which has no relevant origin in human practices. Whereas how it was produced by scientists in some laboratory is irrelevant to its status and irrelevant to its knowledge character, its character as knowledge. Scientists producing knowledge are simply the channels through which reality makes itself known. They're not interested in any other way. The origin of scientific knowledge is then simply the way the world is. The source of scientific knowledge is in nature, it's not in society, it's not in the social. Sociology can only explain deviations from knowledge. They can investigate, sociologists can investigate the intervening social circumstances responsible for deflecting scientists who make mistakes from an otherwise available, accurate perception of reality. Sociology can only show how and why things go wrong, when and if they do. There can therefore cannot be a sociology of scientific knowledge. The most that sociology can contribute is a sociology of error, a sociology of mistake, a sociology of when things go wrong. That's the standard view, which this discipline, the sociology of scientific knowledge, rejects. And this rejection of the standard view allows SSK, the sociology of scientific knowledge, to analyse the very content of science. Not just everything that surrounds it, but the actual knowledge claims themselves that scientists make. SSK wants to analyse the production of these claims, their contestation, for example in the course of scientific controversies, and their acceptance or rejection. All of that. Now, this is a particular way of describing the practice of science, scientific practice, in this way of describing it. Knowledge is not something that's pre-known, as it were. It's an ascribed status, that's a sociological term. It means that knowledge is an honorific status that people can be attributed with, or that claims can be attributed with. I'll stop that, digging myself even deeper. Scientists are trying to make knowledge, but whether they succeed or not is not up to them. They cannot decide to be a knowledge maker as individuals or as a single laboratory or whatever. It is up to the larger scientific community and beyond. Thus, what scientists can be observed to be doing is not making knowledge, but making claims to knowledge, making potential knowledge in the form of knowledge claims. In order to do this, SSK makes no distinction between scientific assertions that are taken to be true, or understood to be true in the scientific community, or to be false. Both are to be explained in the same way. That is, analysis in SSK is impartial with respect to knowledge claims that are taken to be true or false, rational or irrational, successful or unsuccessful, excellent or junk. And it is symmetrical with respect to these categories in that the same type of explanation is applied to both. The question and answer session is going to be interesting. So SSK's conception of knowledge is very different than it is in the standard view, their understanding of this word knowledge. In the standard view, knowledge is an evaluative or normative term. That is, it describes only a certain class of cognitions, only a certain class of mental acts those which can be described as justified true beliefs. The justification being in their correspondence to reality and or the very high degree of rationality involved in holding them. That's knowledge for the standard view. Knowledge for SSK, knowledge for the sociology of scientific knowledge, is simply whatever counts as knowledge, whatever is treated as knowledge in any local context or social collectivity. The relevant communities in which these forms of knowledge circulate are the sole judges of cognitive value. So, SSK, what this implies, if you've done any philosophy you might recognise this, if you haven't you won't, is a relativist position. How am I doing this?
Okay, good.
Oh, well, that's fine. How much have I got?
Go ahead, Malcolm.
Thank you very
Go
much.
ahead.
Okay, SSK has not been responsible for revising or rejecting the standard view of scientific knowledge all by itself. Its development has been influenced by the revisions of the standard view which have arisen in recent philosophy of science. These revisions undermine the traditional view that scientists can gain unmediated access, sort of transparent access to the natural world as it exists. And also that there is only one good method for doing so, for gaining unmediated access to the natural world, the scientific method, which we've all heard. Now, if scientists can have no unmediated access to the natural world, this opens the way to investigations of the ways in which their access is precisely mediated. In other words, the way in which that access is not direct, but indirect with various forms of apparatus and so on that they need in order to gain it. The mediation process investigated by SSK, by the Sociology of Scientific Knowledge, is that of the social construction of natural reality in negotiations between scientists, and in scientists' negotiations with the material and textual apparatus of their craft. One way to picture this process is as the creation of order out of disorder. We can understand scientists as precisely doing that, attempting to create order out of disorder, to crystallize facts from the disorder of the perceived world. So from the chaos of experience, scientists select elements that become the basis for knowledge claims. The status of these knowledge claims is then negotiated, successful claims become knowledge, they become true descriptions or explanations of a thing out there, something in the world. Indeed, a fact becomes the cause or the origin of its own description. Social factors, such as the processes of negotiation and persuasion that SSK studies, become literally inconceivable as the determinant, the origin of true knowledge. So the fate of a fact is for its genesis, for how it got there, simply to be forgotten. Once it becomes a fact, you can't imagine that it was ever anything else. However, there are obviously occasions where knowledge claims are not accepted. In these cases, social factors become the relevant explanatory resource for scientists themselves. They explain why things went wrong. Thus, scientists can be observed to engage in their own form of sociology of error. Okay, nearly finished. The most frequently misunderstood feature of SSK is its understanding of the term social, which I've been using a lot. Its critics treat the social as just a factor in the production of knowledge alongside other factors such as reason or cognition. An aggregation of such factors gives you the full picture of the origin of any belief or item of knowledge. For example, 30% social, 70% rational. But this is not how SSK understands the situation. For the sociology of scientific knowledge, the social goes all the way down. Science is social throughout, through and through. And far from the social being in competition with other factors, it is treated as a determinant of them. What counts as rational in any particular context is itself socially determined. And also, in SSK, the social is entirely benevolent. It is not a contaminant of truth or the source of the corruption of truth. It is instead the condition of the possibility of true knowledge. And that's my talk. Thank you.
Very intriguing. Huh? Let's open the floor for any questions. Please, if you have any questions.
If you understood it at all.
I understand the sociology and science. Because science very, it can prove in every society. And society is true in the truth is true inside the people, but it's different from the other society. And the science is true in every.
Is that a question or a comment? Oh, okay.
I think knowledge it's part of reason and cognition.
Yes.
Probably two origins of the knowledge. I think.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't quite get that. Could you say that again, please? Sorry. I can't really, because one problem with this room is that there's street noise and I can't hear very well. So.
Say it again, a little louder.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. It's all. I think that the knowledge that you say is a part of reason and cognition.
I'm not, well, I wasn't saying that was the case. I was saying that there is a view which the kind of study that I was talking about, that the view that takes knowledge as to be composed entirely of rationality or entirely of cognition is a view that the sociology of scientific knowledge rejects. Right? It's not something that I was putting forward or that study accepts, that kind of study accepts. On the contrary, it would say that what counts as rational, what counts as rational argument or an appropriate way to judge facts of the matter is itself socially determined. Right? So it's not free floating. You don't have rationality unaffected by the social, and then you've got this thing called the social alongside. So you can aggregate, 50% of that, 50% of that. It's not like that. The social affects everything, and what counts as rational is also social. Just to repeat.
I want to propose some exercise because I think I am system. My background is I am system engineer, and I think system engineer.
Oh, okay.
And I think it's a topic. It's a hard topic.
tough.
No, that's it.
Very hard.
No, hello, how are you? What do you think about the Russian? No.
Yes.
Why don't try to divide, decompose, talk about the main topic. What all of the table understand about the topic, the main topic, and start to talk about the other ideas that Malcolm talked in your talk. Maybe it's better to abort the theme.
To break down the theme, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Mhm.
Science is very broad, right?
Mhm.
I mean, what I understood, because I am not a scientist, right?
No.
But what I understand Malcolm to be saying, and if I'm mistaken, please feel free to let me know, is that science traditionally is seen as to being very rational, right? And facts are facts. But I think what he's saying in terms of the sociological aspect is that this is not entirely the case, that rationality in itself is subjective and not objective. Is that what you're kind of saying or no?
Yeah, I wouldn't use the term subjective,
Okay,
but because that
Okay.
implies individual.
Okay, but as a culture determines that.
Exactly.
What is rational and what is not. Is that what you mean?
Yes, it is.
Okay, is it making sense? So in one culture, what may be perceived as rational, in another culture
Yes,
or another group, it may seem completely completely irrational. Is that what you're saying?
Which is how you can get very difficult to resolve scientific controversies between sets of actors, sets of scientists who believe entirely different things about this little piece of the natural world. They believe each other entirely wrong, acting entirely irrationally, and you talk to both sides and they say the same things about the other side. You see what I mean? But they're both, as it were, from an outside position, equally rational. They both got the same resources. They've both got the same level of education. They're both saying sensible things from their point of view. But there is this more or less irresolvable controversy because each side cannot understand how the other one could take up a position that is so stupid. And that's how scientific controversies often work.
But can you give us like a specific example?
Yes. Yes.
Like one example.
Yes. Yes.
Of this type of situation.
Yes.
Right?
Thank you.
Within science, there was in a branch of physics over the last 50 years, there has been this search for. Do you really want this? There has been a search for something that was called gravitational waves. Gravitational waves. These are theoretically understood to exist because of large-scale cosmological events out there in the universe, such as the collapse of stars. These events are predicted to produce enough energy so that this energy is detectable on Earth. Right? So scientists have been attempting to detect it. Yeah. And they have built detectors to attempt to do this. And there have been lengthy and very difficult to shut down, very difficult to resolve controversies about which kind of detector is the most appropriate, about which, if you get a signal, the proponents, the person who built this detector, will say and did say that now we have managed to detect, here's my proof, here are my signals, we have managed to detect gravitational waves. Critics will say, no you haven't, because that's just noise, your detector couldn't detect them anyway, right? Our detector, on the other hand, which shows no gravitational waves, cannot detect them, is telling you the truth, because there are no gravitational waves to be detected with this level of sensitivity of our instruments at the moment. You see what I mean? And you'll get disputes of this kind throughout science all the time. We don't tend to hear about it if we're not inside a scientific community that is engaged in this. But they happen on a very frequent basis, and they are supposed also to be the cause of the general public's distrust of science. Because how can sensible, rational, intelligent scientists disagree so much? But they do, all the time. Right? And they don't disagree because one of them is at the beginning wrong, and the other one is at the beginning right. Right? Who is right and who is wrong is what is discovered through the course of the controversy. Once the controversy is resolved, then truth is produced. Right? The side who is said to win, wins, and what they say becomes the truth. Right? And the side who loses, what they say becomes junk. Right? But prior to the resolution of the controversy, none of that was the case. Because nobody, which is why it's so good for sociologists to study controversies that have not ended, that are live, that are happening right now, because nobody in the world knows how they're going to be settled. Nobody in the world knows what piece of truth is going to come out of there. The scientists involved don't know, the sociologist doesn't know, nobody knows. Right? You just have to wait and see. And so it can't. You're not in a situation where you, as you are when you're studying historical pieces of science, right? Pieces of science that have been settled, where the temptation is to say, oh well, we know what's the truth. Therefore, the people who believed that were right all along, and the people who didn't believe that were wrong all along. Right? If you study a live controversy, you can't make that move. You've got to wait for resolution to occur, and that can't be forced, and you can't produce it. And scientists can't intend to produce it either. But that's the kind of thing I was talking about, Caroline.
Okay, thank you.
I have another question.
Good.
Carolina's question
Yes.
is based on a current controversy, right? In this gravitational waves.
Well, this has got a sort of history, 40, 50-year history.
Okay, and it's still going on, right?
Yeah.
Is it?
It is in some level, yeah.
Okay.
That's right.
Is
That
there,
is
okay. Is there a different, can you give us another example where it was resolved and the process of how?
Well,
Maybe, or an idea about maybe what might have happened so that everybody reached an agreement?
yeah. Well, there are cases, say, quick resolution cases.
But what's the process of coming to saying, okay, this is what we, you know what I mean?
Yes.
This was the case, and
Well, there isn't a general one. There's not a recipe which you can follow. Okay. But which is why there's many studies of particular controversies, and there's not a lot of. You can say certain general things, but you certainly can't say, okay, here's how to settle a controversy. You know, follow these steps, and you will have it over in 5 minutes. You know, it's not like that. But for example, a few years ago in the late 1980s, you might remember an event. It was one of these Save the World scientific events, right? Where a couple of chemists from the University of Utah in the US came up with room temperature nuclear fusion, right? Nuclear fusion in a test tube at room temperature, scale of this kind of thing. Right? Instead of these huge machines, billion-dollar machines, trying to reproduce the conditions inside the sun that had been the basis of nuclear fusion research. Right? Nuclear fusion is what goes on in a hydrogen bomb and what goes on in the sun. Okay? Trying to reproduce those conditions is a very expensive, very difficult project. It's been going for 50 years since the Second World War, and has produced almost zero results despite the billions of dollars that have gone into it. These two chemists come along in 1989 and say, look, I can produce it here in this bottle, right? This costs 2 and 6. You know, I mean, it costs nothing. And of course, this was a complete sensation. if their claims had been true, or had been taken to be true, or had been accepted in some way, then the world would be a very different place than it is now. Free energy, that great idea. They were famous for 5 minutes. Right? The physicists who had an interest, you could say, killed it off within a year. Right? Cold fusion since then has become, which is what it was called, cold fusion, has become a joke. Right? The original scientists were sort of excommunicated from the scientific community. Nobody could do study with any scientific work labelled cold fusion or anything akin to it. So that's a different kind. That's a different kind of controversy that's over very quickly and settled in a very kind of violent manner. Probably because it was far more in the public domain. It was something that was all over the newspapers as well as the scientific journals. So, yeah.
Any other questions? Before we wrap up?
Wrap up.
Wrap up?
Wrap up, I'm sorry.
Okay. Idiomatic expression to end something, to finish something, to complete something. So my comment, my question was, does anyone have any other questions before we wrap up?
I want to say something about the methodology for the student, and this is important that do you understand maybe a word, maybe do you understand something of the topic or the words. It's really, I think it's really important that you can ask. Say, oh, what is rap? I don't know what is rap.
Yes.
This is when you ask, you say, and you understand, and then you can join in confidence and say, then okay, I could make a mistake. Okay, I'll say, please correct me, and you. I think it's more for your practice and better
more useful.
For useful to be here. I think
Don't be shy. Don't be shy.
Wrap up?
Yes. Right, so to wrap up, does anybody have any questions? Maybe I should write the question. Does anyone have any more questions before we wrap up? Meaning finish. Right? It's idiomatic. Clear? Yes?
Or like a wrap, like a food wrap.
Yes! So a present, right? When you wrap it, you're ready to give it to somebody, or food, you wrap it, you're ready to keep it, preserve it for another day.
It also suggests that there's kind of a ritual with ending things.
Yes.
There's a specific way to end things. You don't just all leave.
Yes.
Things are said in a certain way, goodbyes are done, all of that kind of thing, which is the process of ending. Sorry, that's your thing.
Good. Okay. Well, how would, okay, I have another question before we wrap up.
Excellent.
Right? My question is, okay, what's going on now that you think is important in the scientific community that the public should be aware of, or anything important for us to be aware of? I know, but this is true, right? But
sure.
That we...
Okay, well, probably...
When you mean everything, Olga, what do you mean?
Well, I mean that, and that's the reason why I'm interested in SSK, or STS as it's always also called, Social Studies of Science, STS. is the connections between science and society, and the way science, is affecting us. Science and technology affects us on an everyday basis. And there are some controversies that, Malcolm mentioned too, that those sound sometimes too esoteric. There are other controversies, such as, for example, here, spreading of Roundup. That's one of my favorite ones.
What is that?
Glyphosate. Yeah, well, the coca plantations.
Roundup is the brand.
Roundup is the brand, and the most common name is glyphosate. Something, it has a very complicated name, but we call it here glyphosate. Okay, is that dangerous for humans that live in those places? Is it? Does it produce rashes, allergies, contamination of crops, of the water, of the fish they take from the water? Does it produce illnesses? Probably, does it produce genetic conditions or not? I mean, the people who produce the substance, this chemical, they say that it's perfectly innocuous for human health. And they have the laboratories, and they're very good at selling it as something that can be used with any question for human health. The people where these substances spread, they claim that they've had this disease and these other problems. But of course they are not scientists.
Like not science, because if the glyphosate is on dangerous, it can prove in the science method, because it can reveal the same condition and the same condition. Results are the same. And after, before the in the community of glyphosate, people can prove the results in the tumors. And they have to show that it can prove damage. But when they aren't sure, they do not science.
It's not scientific proof.
That in an ideal world.
This is science.
Yeah.
It's a form of science. And the community can prove in all community and affect the behavior of the community. In this case, is the science affect the society.
Yes.
It's not separate.
But what counts? I mean, you're using the word proof. What is going to count as sufficient proof? What is going to count as sufficient similar conditions? You spray it on coca fields in southern Colombia. You test it in the laboratory in Monsanto in wherever in the US, and you can claim with equal justification that you have an equivalence there, or you have absolutely a non-equivalence there. The two places are entirely different. The two, you cannot draw any conclusions from one that apply to the other. That's a justifiable claim. Also, it's a justifiable claim to say, yes, you can, because that's what this laboratory is for, to test these things in conditions that are similar enough. Right? Because you can't ever reproduce precisely anything. Once a piece of time has gone, it's gone. You cannot live this conversation again. We cannot do this again in precise, identical detail. There are no such thing as an identity. Right? Everything is unique, in principle. So, in order for any science to make any sense, there has to be an assessment of similar enough. Is this similar enough? These two conditions: spraying the cocoa, spraying the Roundup, on coca fields in southern Colombia and testing them in Monsanto's laboratory. Are these similar enough? The critics of the spraying say, no, they're not. The proponents of the Roundup say, yes, they are.
Let me ask you a question. Proponents, do you mean people who support?
Yes.
Right? So
Precisely.
the proponents, the people who
Exactly.
support.
Exactly.
Right? And what do you mean by equivalence and non-equivalence?
Well, acceptably equivalent, because that's what you're dealing with. You're never dealing with identity. You are dealing with two different things that can or cannot be taken to be equivalent to each other. Right? Yeah. Similar enough to each other,
Right.
so that the one can stand for the other.
So equivalent meaning not equal, not equal, but very close.
Relevantly the same,
Right.
but not absolutely
Identical.
the same.
Right. And non-equivalent meaning enough evidence to show that there's no similarity.
But it's whose evidence, and evidence for what? You see, I mean this is what these kind of controversies are always about. They're about is this going to count? Is this going to count as sufficiently similar in order that its relevance can be taken to that it can be sufficiently relevant, you know, and this you've got to make these judgments. These judgments are made all the time. Otherwise, a laboratory is a pointless place. It has no function, right? Unless what happens in the laboratory can be taken out of the laboratory and said to have some relevance to the world, then all scientists are doing in laboratories is playing little games. Nothing they say should ever be taken seriously by anybody else with regards to anything that happens outside of the laboratory. But of course, science is about, wants to be about, hopes to be about, is taken, its power comes from being about the world, not about the laboratory. Right? So what happens in the laboratory has to be a model. It has to have a relevance to something that isn't in the laboratory. Because the world can't be put in the laboratory. It's still it. And yeah, so yeah.
And in this case, talking about controversies, there have been controversies that not only involve the people with their claims that this is not safe, that they are getting allergies or that children are being born with diseases or congenital conditions. But it's also a debate between laboratories, because other places in Colombia and elsewhere have done and produced different results than Monsanto's results. Monsanto is a place that produces some results. And some people can say, oh, I don't believe in anything that Monsanto produces or says regarding the safety of this product, because they have a stake or they have an interest in saying so, because they're selling the product. Okay, but somebody could say equally, for example, talking about the results produced at Universidad Nacional where I work, that said that this Roundup is not safe to be spread on the people. Oh well, that's a bunch of left-wing people that they don't want the Plan Colombia.
So they have an interest.
So
they
have an interest in stopping Plan Colombia or in opposing President Uribe or whatever, and therefore you cannot trust what they say. The problem is that you don't know who to trust, because Monsanto has a stake, and the others probably do also have a stake, and the people in this are the most sometimes helpless, in the sense that nobody wants to talk to them because they only have experiences, and what they have is not science, it's just experiences. And in order to validate these experiences and turn them into something that can be credible in scientific terms, you would have to have stuff that is not there. For example, you would have to have studies that do epidemiology of these people. Well, nobody has done a study of epidemiology in a particular region where they are spreading this. So nobody knows what the conditions or diseases they've had over generations. So whatever they claim is just experience. And those are the cases that are, I think, or I believe nowadays, more interesting from the point of view of this scale. And we're full of those cases. We're surrounded by those cases. And that's what makes it interesting, and that's what answers your question about kind of why is it relevant today? Why would the public want to know about this? Because the public could say, okay, hang on a minute, maybe in all these debates there are other things that have to be considered. It's not only, everything is not about science, there's also values, or the way we want to live our lives, or the risks we want to have. Another big example, I mean as big as it gets, is global warming.
Yes.
Modern society is thinking about the medicine. We have a traditional medicine, but there are another medicine that another countries and another subcultures here that are good, and we believe that the other medicine are bad, but no, would be because the result is nice. It's similar to indigenous,
Similar to what? I'm
How
sorry.
do you say indigenous?
The indigenous?
Indigenous produce vegetables with nice products that the city cultures don't, the most of city cultures don't like. But it's nice products. There is a product that they try, that they indigenous, but this produce the parasite the Spain people.
Parasites?
Parasite, the Spain people,
Paralyzed.
Okay.
with the
Botox.
similar.
Botox.
What is
From, is a derivative from that, isn't it?
And this product produce anesthetic for relaxing muscles. And many products to produce a product they come and they could have, and many products come from the plants. But we don't believe about the plant, but the plant have many times. And others they are too. I don't believe in the agriculture, but the results very nice. I don't know how they work, but I don't know what that work.
Acupuncture.
Acupuncture, yeah. That's right.
And it is sociology, but not science, by function.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting case. I mean, I don't think anybody, well, I don't think there is, as it were, what might count as a theory of acupuncture. But it's one of these forms of treatment that sort of don't require one, don't require theorization in order to keep credibility based upon a person's experience. Again. So people say, well, I've no idea why sticking all these needles in me should make me feel better, but it does, you know. Rather like homeopathy. I mean, the most sort of anti-theoretical idea, you know, homeopathy. With the it's big in Colombia. It's big.
Yes.
Homeopathy.
Homeopathy.
Alternative medicine.
Exactly, but this very
It's a
specific.
type of alternative medicine.
Right.
Yeah.
A type.
Which is a matter of super dilute substances that within the sort of standard scientific theory of chemical action should have no effectivity at all. Just impossible for them to have any effectivity at all. And yet they do, according to people who claim that, yes, I took this stuff and I felt better. And you can't say they're wrong, because they took the stuff and they felt better. I mean, you know.
But that would be a placebo.
But that's what they say, right?
But everything's a placebo. I mean,
That's what they say.
That's no problem. I mean, you can re-describe all medicine in terms of placebo.
So my question is, what is that a case of? Is that a case of mind over matter? A mind, do you know what I mean? My question?
You don't really use it. You think there's no matter there, right? I mean, which of course the critics say that there isn't, because it's impossible for there to be. So mind over matter. Well, I don't know how you separate those things out, unless you really want to believe that, you know, kind of radical materialism, such that a substance will have a determinate effect on a person, say, regardless of what this person understands, regardless of what conditions in which it's administered and so on. You might want to go with mind over matter, but
I don't know. It was just a question.
No, of course. But it's an interesting question, and it's kind of a complicated question.
Okay.
But as a sociologist, I guess the scientific method, as I understand, is a Western idea or creation, or something that was created, let's say, by the Western society, or what about culture? And doesn't it collide sometimes with exactly these Eastern types of treatments, or Eastern ways of, or other ways of thinking? I mean, as a sociologist, what do you? I mean, it's like a Western imposition.
Is it?
But sitting in Colombia, talking about Western and Eastern is a bit strange, isn't it? I mean, you know, because that's an entirely Eurocentric geography, isn't it? You know, west of Berlin or whatever. You know, I mean, or west of Rome, east of, you know, I mean, we're in Bogotá, you know, and we can talk about Western.
But you do know that Colombian elites
are Eurocentric in that sense.
are Eurocentric.
Yeah, entirely.
And consider themselves to be part of the West.
Yes, the West.
Let's say traditional indigenous medicine. We know that, for example, pharmaceutical companies are using a lot of plants from the Amazon to make their medicines, their drugs. But at the same time, the indigenous way of healing is unscientific. They consider it to be unscientific. So there is always it's not acceptable acupuncture unless it is studied using the scientific method to say that it is acceptable. The same with other types of treatment.
But couldn't you argue that the more effective science gets, or the more we believe in its sort of instant and automatic effectivity, the more it approaches the condition of magic, right? I mean, magic precisely is effectivity without any requirement to understand why. So we call something magic when it's effective, even though it shouldn't be, right? And natural science is more and more magical, isn't it? And sort of traditional belief systems less and less magical if you understand it. Because they have perfectly good theories. It's just we don't believe them. You know.
Yeah, even agriculture that you just said that doesn't have a theory, it does have a theory. It doesn't have a theory for us
No, right.
because we
No,
turn
you're
it
absolutely right.
entirely in a technique.
And it's radically technical.
But it does have a theory.
No, you're right. That's entirely wrong.
All these practices are based on a theory. But as Carolina was saying or suggesting in her question, I mean, Western science has managed to label everything outside its limits as something that is ascientific, non-scientific. So, for example, talking about these so-called discoveries of the pharmaceutical companies, most of them are discoveries done by indigenous populations. They are the discoverers, as you were saying, as well, of what these plants are for. This is a venom, and we can use it to paralyze, or we can use it to this and this and that. And then come some white people and learn from them, and then take it elsewhere, put it in a bottle, and sell it as their discovery.
Well, quinine, for example,
Quinine, yes. So it's said to be discovered by somebody else that just learned it from the indigenous population
What is that?
in Peru.
What is that? What is that?
Quinine.
You know,
Q-U-I-N-I-N.
what's that?
You want to write it
That was
down?
to cure fevers.
Oh, okay.
No, yeah.
Quinine.
But the specific one,
Cinchona. Cinchona.
yeah, no. I'm talking about the particular disease which has gone out of my head,
Okay.
which is what?
Malaria.
Thank you.
Okay,
Malaria.
okay,
That's the one.
malaria.
Okay.
Malaria.
Okay.
So, so they are the ones that are constantly experimenting with plants and animals and learning from it. And somebody tries these a little bit and they feel sick and they don't use it anymore, or they use it to kill animals or whatever. That is a learning process, that is a process of producing knowledge. That precisely Western science has managed to say, oh no, that's kind of some kind of intuition, or that's test and error.
Yes.
That's not true science. We are the discoverers because we have these laboratories.
Because we are using the scientific method as it was defined by the people who are supposed to define those
Right.
things. And the same with Eastern medicine, which has a lot of also traditional things that go back thousands of years. And I guess they have seen that it works, because of, not using the exact same scientific method, but they have, but it's not valid unless it is goes through the
Western
ideology, and also they can patent or they can have a copyright for some type of in order to get some profit from it.
Yes.
Yeah, it's economics.
Yes.
Yes, I think that in conclusion, I think that the society and scientists are two worlds, two ways that work apart. And I think that is a fight that
That will never end?
that never ends or never finish.
Yes.
Yes.
Sure.
Because two ways work apart. And I think that the best result is a combination of society and science. It's a combination. I think that is produce best results.
We should come and do our course.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Very interesting, very intriguing, right? Yes. Right? Let's talk about some of the specific vocabulary. To validate something, What does that mean, to validate something?
That proof before they produce.
To prove something, right? Okay.
That word is very similar to the Spanish
Okay.
validar.
Okay.
It's very similar.
Okay. Well, tell me your name again, sir. Tell me your name again. What's your name?
My name?
Yes, please.
Yes, it.
Yesid?
Yesid.
Okay, Yesid. You said the results are,
I don't know where to
right?
it's.
The results are, right? Because it's plural,
Okay.
right? Paralyzed, right? Tell me your name again. Tell me your name again. Tell me your name again. Huh? Ediberto? Okay. It's a new name for me, Ediberto. It's a fight that will never end. Right? You said a fight that will grow up. No. Never. A fight that will never end.
Grow up is like for people, I guess. Like people who grow up.
Yes.
Not for...
People grow up. Children grow up. Right? Crecimiento.
Yes.
Okay, good. Anesthetic. Do we know? Anesthetic. Who can give me an example of an anesthetic?
Or say a phrase with the word anesthetic.
Yes. Before she went to the while she was at the dentist, before the operation, he gave her an anesthetic. The dentist gave the patient an anesthetic, right?
But not feel pain.
To not feel any pain. Not feel. To not feel. To not feel. Say to not feel any pain. Okay. Okay? Okay, let's look at the big question again. Ediberto, can you read it for me, please?
Does anyone have any more questions before we wrap?
Okay, one more time.
Does anyone have any more questions before we wrap up?
Right. Could you say the question as well?
No. Repeat.
Yes, please.
Does anyone have any more questions before we wrap up?
Yes, meaning before we finish, right? Okay, good. Indigenous, right? Indigenous people, right? Okay, good.
I think there is sometimes, and also in Spanish, a confusion between Indian,
Yes.
which is a person from India, from the country,
Yes.
and indigenous, which is
Native. Yes.
So-
The last word was what? The last word.
Native people?
Native.
Natives, right?
Like in the US they say Native Americans to
Right.
refer to the indigenous population of the US. They don't say Indians. Indians
Correct.
is not.
Native.
Indians are people from India.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Scientific proof or scientific proofs for the plural, right? So scientific proof or scientific proofs.
I think it's
With a V?
That's
No.
the verb.
no.
That's
That's the verb. This is the noun. So
prueba,
it's to prove something.
probar,
This is the noun. This is the verb.
y prueba, proof.
To prove is the verb. Yes. And proofs, right, is the noun. Do you see the difference? So for example, there are many scientific proofs about global warming. There are many current scientific proofs about global warming which the scientists had to prove. Okay? So there are many scientific proofs now about global warming which the scientists first had to prove. So the proofs are the result of proving. Are we good?
Yes.
Okay, good. If something is relevant, or if something is relevant, or has relevance and irrelevance. If something has relevance.
Very important.
Yes, it's related to something. It's important to something, right? Would you, who wants to volunteer a little sentence?
With relevance.
Yes.
The results of scientific are very
relevant, right? Good. So the scientific proofs or the results are very relevant. Yes. How about proponents? What's a proponent, or what are proponents?
That person that suggests.
A supporter of something, right?
Yes.
So to be a proponent of something means to support. Jesse, could you give me a short little sentence using proponent or proponents?
The mayor.
The mayor
Propounds the process.
The mayor
Propounds
proposed
about
to take
the process.
no, I don't know that one. The mayor, yes.
The mayor
Proposed
to take the
Garbage.
Okay, wait. So, okay, little different. Let's look at it.
But propose is not like a person, but to say, oh, who wants to pick it up the garbage?
Right. Okay,
And
so
person
let's
propose, I have a proposal to.
a proposal for. Okay, so what was your sentence?
The mayor
The mayor
propounds
proposed that what? To collect the garbage. When? Every week? Once a week? Twice a week? Let's make something up. Okay, so the mayor proposed,
The collective purpose.
yes.
but propose propounds
Okay.
to the council.
It's a little different.
No, propounds to the proposal, it's been not proposed to the council or both. No, the proposed, propound.
Okay, a proponent is a supporter. So for example, the mayor proposed to the council to collect the garbage once a week. This is the verb, right? To propose. So anybody on the council who agrees, right? Who agrees or accepts the council's proposal is a proponent of the mayor's proposal. So this is it. The mayor proposed to, right, to the council. Let's look at both sentences so that it's clear. The mayor proposed to the council that the garbage should be collected once a week is ridiculous. It's just around we would all die from every disease on the planet, but it's just an example, right? Let's hope it's every other day or once a day, right? Okay, twice a week, you feel better? Okay. All right, if that will make you guys feel better. Twice a week. All right, so let's look at it.
I guess you can also say bi-weekly.
Okay, yes you can. Or bi-weekly. Bi-weekly is twice, no, bi-weekly is every other week. Yes, every 2 weeks.
Okay.
This is twice a week within the same week. Right? So the mayor, could you read it?
The mayor proposed to the council that the garbage should be collected twice a week.
Is that clear? Okay? Now, oops. Everyone on the council who agreed was a proponent of the mayor's proposal. Look at the difference. Look at the two sentences and look at the difference. Could you read it? You see it?
Every one of the council who agreed was a proponent of the mayor's proposal.
Yes. So the mayor proposed, right? Put forth an idea, right? Presented an idea or some kind of program. The people who support that program or that idea are proponents, or a person is a proponent.
Proponent.
Yes.
Alternatives.
Similarly,
Maybe alternatives. Is a proponent.
Proponent is a supporter. Somebody who agrees
Yes.
with somebody else. If I agree with an idea that you have, I am a proponent of your idea. Not an opponent, but a proponent. There's a difference.
But only if I agree. It's not
Yes.
like I say, I take your
It's
idea,
not
I
the one who
say,
takes
no.
the initiative.
Yes.
Because in Spanish, the proponent, which
Yes.
is very similar, the word is very similar, proponente.
Yes.
It's more like the person who takes the initiative and puts forward the idea.
Okay.
And it seems like it's different.
Yes, it is. A supporter.
Okay.
Yes. Okay? Okay. An opponent, of course, is the opposite, right? Clear?
yes.
Okay. Okay. Congenital conditions. Remember, Olga had mentioned that
Yes,
there's
we
something-
describe the
Yes. That it creates what?
factor. These people, maybe the people have a congenital.
Conditions. What does that mean? To have a congenital condition. Who can give me an example? You see.
Congenital conditions when you is exposed to something that can produce some bad or good conditions.
It's usually negative, right?
Someone who's born with a congenital is to
That's
be
right.
born with
Correct,
that.
like a defect.
Problems.
Yes, like a defect. Maybe a limb, maybe a hand is different in some way, or a limb of the body, right? There was, I can't remember, but there was a condition with a nuclear plant in Russia. And
Chernobyl?
yes, Chernobyl, right? And apparently many of the children who were born after that plant, that nuclear accident, had congenital conditions, right? Okay? Okay, you're occupied. Okay, I want you to contribute the next sentence, right? Look at this one. Yes.
You understand what it means?
Yes, that's why we're asking everybody to give a sentence to make sure they understand. Yeah, if you have a stake in something, this is very idiomatic.
Yeah, and it's very common.
And it's in business.
Very common in business. You talk about stakeholders.
Good, yes.
That's very common.
Yes.
It's a very important term to
Yes.
know.
Similar to have a interest in something.
Correct.
Interest in something.
Correct. So give us an example, Elkin. A short example using,
Instead,
yes.
maybe no. Today, none of the seats stake in the Speak-Bogota.
What's that?
Today, Hernan and Yesid are stake in Speak-Bogota.
You're in the right direction. You're in the right direction. Who can help? You see? Okay, want to try another example to give us? To have a stake in something. To have.
Have a stake in
Yes, this is important. To have a stake in something. Okay, I'm not clear.
I'm not clear.
I'm
not clear.
right.
I'm not clear. Stay.
I am okay.
That means
Okay, I am not clear about what stake means.
what stake means.
Okay, give me the
I'm
sentence.
not clear what stake means.
Okay. One more time.
I'm not clear what stake means.
Okay. Hold on for just a moment. Any other volunteers? Okay, for example, the council or some members of the council members who agreed to the mayor's proposal had a stake. The council mayors who agreed had a stake in the mayor's proposal. She or he has a stake in the construction of a new building around the corner. He has a stake in the construction of a new building around the corner. Carolina?
I don't know if the nominees to the Oscar Awards have a stake in the films. I don't know, the films that have been nominated to the Oscars have a stake in
Winning.
in winning.
Yes. Stake means interest. To have a stake in something means to have an interest in something. Yes.
I can say I have a stake in trips.
In what?
In trips or go to.
No. I'm glad you mentioned that because the meaning is a little different.
Yeah, there is a
right.
small,
There's a yes. So to have a stake
is to like some in a way you are invested in that.
Yeah, you have an
Some
investment.
sort, yes, you have. Yeah, you
I have a stake in computers.
I have a stake in building a computer company. I have a stake in investing in computer companies.
For business.
Yes. Right? Not an yes.
Okay.
That's Carolina said. Not a word for I have a stake in going to the beach. I have a stake in playing tennis. Business interest.
Yes.
Right? Okay? So
to continue with the example from today's presentation is like drug companies have a stake in the approval of new drugs.
Correct. That's a perfect example. Drug companies, that's a perfect example, have a stake in new drugs, right?
Or in the approval of new drugs because they can make a lot of money
Correct.
if a new drug is approved.
In the approval of new drugs. Look at the sentence, guys. Look at how it's used, Elkin. Elkin, can you read it? Drug companies?
To have a stake in something?
Yes, and this is the example.
Drugs companies have a stake in the approval of new drugs. To have a stake. Drugs companies have a stake in the approval of new drugs.
right? Meaning that they have a real interest in making profits, right?
Yes.
Could we think of one more sentence? Can any of you three think of one more sentence that we can add to that?
For example, I have stake in a new company. It's computer.
Okay. Okay. In English, the adjectives go before the noun. So tell us again.
I have stake in a new computer company.
In a new computer company. One more time.
I have a stake in a new computer company.
Perfect. Very nice example. Right? So the second example, I have a stake in a new computer company. Perfect. You see, would you like to give us another example? Good, thank you.
I have a stake to a cell phone store.
Yeah, I have a stake in a new cell phone store. Yes. Right? Good. I have a stake in a new cell phone store. Fantastic. Right? Okay. All right. What do we know or can we guess the person who has the stake or a stake in something? Can we guess what the noun? So if a person has a stake in something, right? What may be the name or the noun of that person?
Stakeholder.
A stakeholder. That's right. So, for example, if you have a stake in a new computer company, you're a stakeholder in that company.
Which is not the same also from business as being a stockholder.
Yes.
That's
okay. Yes. Explain the difference, Carolina.
Stocks is the stock, las acciones. I own part of the company.
Right.
I'm a stock with an O.
Yes.
Holder.
Yes.
Stakeholder is I have an interest. For example, I could be an employee at the company. I don't necessarily own part of the company, but I am a stakeholder because I work for that company. So I have, in a way, it affects me. What happens to the company affects me. So I am a stakeholder.
Right, but a stockholder is somebody who actually has some kind of financial
property, owns part of the company.
Some kind of financial holding, right? Good. Let me ask you guys, as you were listening, you two Alkin, what, in terms of the pacing of the speech, of the talk, was it difficult? Was it?
Or the accent?
How was the listening?
I understand the idea.
I understood. Past tense.
The idea, principal idea of
his talk. Okay. Any difficulty? Real difficulty?
I try to understand.
So, in terms of percentage, what would you say? How much would you say you understood? That we're rating it out of 100%.
No.
Okay, my question is, in terms of your listening and your understanding, what percentage would you say? 50% of the talk? 50%? Okay. How about you? It was difficult.
Yes.
Okay.
But because of the content, or because of or the way he delivered the
yes.
Was it the theme or the accent or a combination
or
of both or everything?
Combination of
everything.
Yes.
Okay. The speaking.
The speaking and content.
And the content. Yeah, which is different.
I have a suggestion. The loud, it's very loud.
It's very loud. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Because
because of the traffic,
The traffic.
right? Because of the traffic. Okay, Elkin, how about you?
I think it's good. Michael have a really nice accent.
I thought it was good.
I thought it was. Okay. Yeah.
I
I
thought
thought
it.
it was good.
Okay, good.
Because Michael
Has.
a very good accent.
Yes, clear.
Clear is clear.
It's clear.
But I think in the exercise to understand the English
Yes.
and understand the topic
Yes.
is really hard because the topic is not
Easy.
It's not easy.
Right.
But at the last part when
Okay.
Olga talked about the glyphosate.
Okay, hold on. During the last part of the talk.
During the last part
Of the talk.
uh-huh.
When
When Olga talks about
Olga talked, past tense.
talked, yes, talked about glyphosate. The talk it was
It was.
it was more easy because
Okay,
it's more for the common and
It was easier.
easier.
It was
easier
because it's more common.
because the term is more common
Sure.
and it's more easy only focus on think in English it's not in the topic that you have to understand the topic and the relation with the science and
Relationship.
the relationship in the relationship
Yes, with science and society.
Okay. It's interesting, the topic
Yes.
is interesting, but
It's
but
difficult.
we have a high level of
It's more for a lecture at
Yes.
university, which is, I mean, he's a professor.
Yes, but look, I think it's a very, very good exercise. And I'll tell you why. It's necessary. It's necessary to have difficulty in the beginning, especially when you need to stretch your faculties or your capabilities or your skills. It's necessary not to understand everything or not to understand most of it. When you're now beginning to stretch your capacities, if this is done frequently and you listen consistently, it's going to get better. You cannot just start something new and expect it to work, right? So he has introduced many different things today. He introduced new ideas, new vocabulary, right? You had to analyze, you had to listen, you had to analyze, you had to try and understand. So there were there were at least 3 different things you had to do at the same time.
Very challenging for the brain.
Very challenging for the brain. But I mean, think about it this way. You're now learning to ride a bike. That kid falls, and very soon they become experts, right? They know how to ride a bike, ride a car with their eyes closed if they don't stop, right? So the more you listen, the point is the more you listen, and as your listening increases and your comprehension grows, you need to listen to more complex things. And your understanding stretches, it grows. Your ability, if you start listening to complex themes, the more you listen to more complex themes, it's sort of ironic in a way, because the more you listen to more complex things, you would think, oh my God, I'm going to get even more confused. That's not the way it works. The more complex things you listen to, the easier it'll become for you, because you're exercising your mind, right? You have to think this talk is about thinking at another level.
Yes.
Right? It's another level. And that's what developing and growing is about. You can't stay the same if you want to grow. It doesn't make any sense. Right? So I would recommend that you start listening in English, because you can already speak some English to more complex themes on television. If you're into business, if you're into technology, don't just listen to news or general news or other things. Other things can be for your entertainment, but in order to develop your listening at a higher level and to be introduced to listening even to new vocabulary and things like that, you need to start listening to more complex themes. Just listening to English is not, general English is not going to help you develop into listening to more complex themes. You need to do that as well. You can do both, right? But you need, the point is you need to definitely listen to more complex themes. You have to, otherwise you're not going to understand and be able to analyze the information. Right? So I'm telling you this because I don't want you to feel overwhelmed or discouraged that you can't handle it. Right? Because this is not the case. The case is that you've just gotten on a new bike or bicycle that you haven't gotten on for a while, right? For a very long time, and so you need to get back on it and start riding again. Yes, and increase the level of difficulty of what you're used to listening to. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay. Any comments or from you, Carolina?
No. I guess maybe one good exercise for them to do after each presentation is maybe each person summarizes the presentation.
Yes.
Because that way you are practicing both listening,
Yes.
understanding what people say,
Yes.
and also say that in your own words.
Yes.
So you are doing both,
Yes.
which is actually what you need for a conversation.
Yes.
Both to listen, to
Yes.
be able to listen, to understand what people tell you, and also to express yourself or to...
And it's a test too, that when you say the information back to us in your own words, that you really understood, right?
Could you please connect my...
But I would say listen every day.
Not practically television.
Of course, right? And then try to speak with people as well. Because listening is the first step in learning a language, right? And it's the first step. But if you only listen, then you can never speak. So I would say after you listen, right, you need to be able to meet people and to speak with them.
This is a reason
That
for this. I don't have people with to interact or to speak. I don't.
Okay,
I don't have
Edberto,
people.
this is the reason I came here today.
This is a reason I came
Here today.
here today.
Yes.
Reason.
Okay.
Here today.
Okay. Good. How do you feel? And how do you feel?
Fine.
Okay. How do you feel?
My mind to try to understand.
Yes. I try not move your mind, but I try to think in a certain
Try
way.
to understand.
To understand. Or to think differently. Right?
Yes.
About what was being said. Ken, what did you think, or how do you feel about listening to Malcolm? Right? You need to listen every day.
Yes.
Right? Every day to something. I would say related to your field.
With the talk of Michael, I have a problem because I have.
Okay, with Malcolm's topic.
But with Michael talking that the multitasking problem with the multitasking.
Sure.
Because I write in here and put the camera.
Sure.
Yes. And this is a problem with attention with the talk.
Sure.
I only sure.
Yeah. I'd say sure. sure means I understand what you're saying.
Yes, that is difficult because the topic I think is a high level topic.
It is.
It's a high level topic.
It's very abstract.
And it's very abstract. But I think if I only concentrate in Michael, I think
On Malcolm.
on Michael,
You'll be okay.
You'll be okay.
Okay.
Maybe half with only words or
Sure. I have a suggestion for this. When you're listening at home, right, even if, I mean, there are times when you need to sit down and make a conscious effort. I mean, you need to be focused only on what's being said on that television, right? For however long you listen a day. I mean, if you're really busy, listen for 15 minutes every day. All right, to a section, technology news, computer news, whatever, but every day, okay? Now, when you come home or whatever, right, when you come home and you need to be doing other things, I would say have English on at other times. Have you're cooking in the kitchen, you're cleaning, you're doing other things, have it on as background. You will listen. Like, you know, some people when they're working, they like to listen to the radio, right? But they're working. That's multitasking. You're listening to the radio and you're working. I mean, you're not just listening to the radio like that, right? So begin to be doing other things while you're listening to English. Do you understand?
Yes.
And it'll become a habit where you'll be able to understand more of English while you're doing other things. It's only because you're not used to it. So you're out of tune. You're just not accustomed to it. All right? So don't think that you need to listen to be in front of the TV like this all of the time. Some of the time, but not all of the time, right? But begin to make English part of your everyday life. Music, movies, news. You have to mix your activities. You can't only do one thing, otherwise you don't really develop. One way of doing something, no, you have to do many different things. Right?
Right.
And so have it on at home and yes, and you will get used to multitasking. Some people say to me, well, I had the TV on while I was ironing my clothes for work the next day or preparing. It's good. You're not going to be able to listen to everything, but what you're doing is you're creating a habit, right, of doing multitasking, because that's the way language works in the world. It's everywhere, right? So it's around us all the time. Okay? But don't feel the point is not to feel overwhelmed or that you can't handle it, right? The point is to be doing it at different levels and many different things at the same time. So sometimes you go to the movies, sometimes you watch movies on TV, you watch news, you speak, you put yourself in a position where you can meet other speakers and speak English. You listen to music, you read in English as well, even if it's on the internet.
Reading voice, read voice, high voice.
Reading out loud if you're at home and you want to hear your pronunciation. All right? And listening to news is important, I think, because broadcasters need to speak standard English for their jobs. Actors don't, because many times they're characters. So their English is not standard. Depending on their social background as an actor, they're not necessarily going to speak English. If you're a mobster, you're going to speak English, but not standard. If you're a mobster and you're watching Robert De Niro in a movie, I bet you it's not standard English.
Do they understand what a mobster is?
Oh, good question. Mobster is like a mafia, a person, right? Robert De Niro, if you right,
Why
great actor.
don't you write it down, because I think
Yes.
maybe that word they don't yeah, that's a word that maybe it's not.
So actors and movies and music, it's not standard English, all right? So you need to be. You can do that if that is of your interest, but you also need to listen to standard English, meaning the English that's accepted and that's understood around the world, right? If an actor's character is a mobster, he won't be speaking standard English. Can you read it?
Yes, amen.
Elkin, I need a volunteer. Can you read it? Read it, please.
If an actor's character is a
Character.
is a mobster, he won't be speaking standard English.
Right, and mobster.
Mobster. Like a gangster.
Yes.
For example, with the black people in the movies talk about moving like a slang, and we just with
Correct.
like
Right? Or a gangster. For example, slang would be I ain't doing this no more. Right? Let's look at it. Slang. An example of slang. I ain't doing this no more. Right? Slang is it's
Street talk.
street talk. Right? It's a derivation or derivative of standard English. Right? It's not standard English. Right?
for business.
Definitely not. Definitely not. It's street talk. Right? So look at it. I ain't doing this no more. Right? So, I mean, if you listen to this too much and you speak like this could be a problem. Right? Unless you're only in that particular community.
Yes.
Right? So, in other words, listening to any kind of English is okay, but you have to begin to differentiate what it is you're listening to. It's not just English. Right? There's standard English, which is universally accepted, and then there are many sorts of deviations. Right? And that's why I always recommend listening to the news, because the vocabulary is standard, the grammar is standard. I mean, this is not standard grammar. First of all, in standard English, we don't use two negatives in a sentence. We have ain't and we have no. Right? We don't use two negatives in a sentence in English. Right? How would we fix this? I ain't doing this no more. How can we fix that? How can we make it more standard?
I'm not doing this work.
Okay, I'm not. Very good. I want somebody to finish it for me. That's a good beginning. Right? I'm not. Very good. So I'm, or I am, or I'm, the contraction, right? I'm not what?
Doing.
Good. Not doing, but doing. Right? Very good. I'm not doing. Good. Elkin, finish the second part of the finish the sentence for us. Excellent, guys.
Please, anymore?
Yeah, anymore. Good. So I'm not doing this anymore. Well done. Right, look at the difference. We've taken out the negative, the two negatives, right? We have not. First of all, in standard English, if somebody says, we usually use no for short answers. Yes, no, right? But I know in Spanish you use no. No bueno, no, right? We say not good. We don't say no good. I mean, no good is idiomatic, right? But usually we say something is not good.
I have a question about no more.
Yes.
Because in some things I hear no more.
Yeah, no more candy for you.
Yes.
Right? But that's only one negative, right?
Okay.
So when we don't use no more, why we cannot use no here?
You are
Is because
saying
we
no
already have
twice.
eight.
You are
Yes.
saying no
The problem is
twice.
not
So it's,
Yes.
it's redundant.
Correct. And it's a rule. We do not use two negatives in a sentence. So if you just have, or I don't have, no more candy for you, you might tell a child.
En español sería como decir, yo no voy a hacer esto no más. No es lo mismo, está mal también. Yo no voy a hacer esto no más, está mal en español. Es redundante. Yo no voy a hacer esto otra vez o más, pero no más.
Does that make sense?
It's the same as the same
Same as in
the same
Spanish.
principle. Yeah.
Okay.
You don't use two negatives.
Right? Ain't means no. And then we have no again. So that should be a tip or clue to you or an indication that something is wrong here, because the rule, the general English rule is we don't ever have two negatives in a sentence. As Carolina pointed out, ain't is another way of saying no. I am not doing this anymore. Right? Alken did.
But I'm not totally sure about the difference. No and not.
Exactly. Say it. Say
I
it.
can say not more.
Yes, I am not. No, in here, no. No, you can't. No, you can't. It's no more.
No more.
Yes. But you cannot use it here, no, because you already have ain't here. Right? Ain't is incorrect.
No, this is clear for me, but
Not more. Instead
Yes.
of saying no,
Yes.
no more, you
Correct.
can also say
Yes.
not more.
Yeah,
but
correct.
do you think the no, not more and no more is the same meaning?
Wait,
Of-
it depends on how we're using it. Not more,
Could you
No.
say not more candy? No.
No,
You
you
can
can't.
only say no more
it's
candy.
only no more.
No more.
Yes, it's only no more.
No.
Okay.
Okay, never not more. Never. No, it's always no more. Always. Okay? Is that clear for you now?
Yes.
Are you sure, Alkin?
Yes.
Okay.
I only use no more.
You
No,
can-
not more.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
I won't use not more anymore.
There you go, perfect. That's a good one, right? And the rule is, in standard English, we don't use two negatives in one sentence. Ain't means ain't, no. And no means no. So this is your clue. Two negatives in one English sentence.
Actually, that would be a contradiction if you think about it, because it's
The
saying
negative of
no
negative
and
is
no,
true.
that
Yes.
is positive, you know. So yeah, actually, it would be technically it would be I'm doing it again.
Clear?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Only after the verb to be is not always.
Yes.
Not.
Yes. Correct.
Not.
Correct. Good. Can you give us an example? Another example you see? Could you think of one at the moment?
example, he is not dancing tonight.
Well done. Well done. Right? He is not, or the contraction isn't, right? Dancing tonight. Wonderful. Well done.
Or if he was talking, he could say, no more dancing for me tonight.
Yes.
Which
Right,
is the equivalent of, yeah.
Yes.
No more dancing for me tonight.
Yes. Let's look at them both. No more dancing for me tonight. They're almost the same. This is general fact about everybody. He's not dancing tonight, and this is something that the person is saying, right? The
First person.
first person, right? No more dancing for me tonight. And the first sentence is, he isn't dancing tonight, right? So the idea is relevant, they're associated, right? There's an association there, but it's not the same, right? It's not the same. And it could mean, I mean, if we look at the context, he simply isn't dancing tonight. He's not going dancing tonight, right? If we look at the first sentence, do you get that? He isn't dancing tonight. Maybe he doesn't feel well, maybe he's, I don't know.
Maybe he doesn't know how to dance.
Maybe, right? But this one indicates to us that he's danced and he's tired. No more that he's danced, no more dancing.
He's done with dancing.
He's done with dancing for tonight. So they don't mean the same. As you can see that, right?
But if you eliminate the more, no dancing for me tonight, that would actually be the same as the one.
Correct. Correct.
Mm-hmm.
I suggest to you guys that, and people do this a lot, they think about the grammar, and I'm big on, I mean, grammar is huge, right? Every sentence is composed of grammar, huh? But you need to think about what it is you're trying to say. And then you can choose the grammar to go with it. It's not the other way around. It's not the grammar first, right? Don't think about the grammar first. Singular, plural, pronoun. A lot of times people do that. So the rules rule them. Grammar is there to help you express accurately what it is you need to say. So first, think about exactly what it is you want to say. And then you can do the grammar. Alright? Think about what it is you want to say first. Do not let the grammar intimidate you. Okay? Many people don't like grammar. And the reason why they don't like grammar is because they're intimidated by it. But it's just there to help you. But a noun is grammar, a verb is grammar, an object is grammar. So grammar, every single sentence is composed of grammar. Alright? It's not grammar, it's that I think it's the way that we perceive grammar and the way that it's been taught. Okay? It's just there to it's a tool to help you express what you need to say. So think first of what it is you need to say and how you need to say it because of the social context. And listen, guys, listen and then find the opportunity to speak. Alright? So, we hope to see you next week. We have another speaker lined up for next week. So keep posted onto the link. Alright? And if you do this frequently and make it a habit, you will be able to understand more and more and more.
Yes.
And your vocabulary will increase too.
How do you think about?
What did you say?
how do you feel?
Good.
How do you think about
What do you
what?
think?
What?
So it's how do you feel
Okay, see, how,
and what do you think?
What do you
Not,
think
not
about
how do you
See, no.
how do you
How do you think?
I feel good. I feel good, and I think it's good activities.
what do
And
you
I asked a question: how often are the meetings?
We're planning on having them every week, every Saturday,
Every
because
Saturday?
we believe that people need to practice at
Yes.
least once a week.
I
so,
mean, yes.
so if it's only once a month,
No.
I mean that's not very useful.
No. It needs to be regular and as regular as
Continue.
possible and consistent.
Like
Right?
any type of learning or any type of thing that you want to get good at,
Yes.
because you need to do practice,
Yes.
practice,
Right.
practice.
Yes, frequently and ongoing. Right? So
Uh, always in Saturdays 3 to 5.
yes.
Yes, maybe
That's-
maybe
that's
we
the plan.
That's
Yeah.
that's the plan.
That's
Maybe
the
we
plan.
can
Mhm.
experimental.
No.
Experiment.
Yes.
Experiment with in the morning to change
Yes.
to see how the people come. But for now it's only 3 to 5.
To see the attendance.
To see attendance.
Yeah, to see the rate of attendance.
To see attendance. Okay, no, please. repeat the
Okay,
latest.
maybe we will experiment with mornings
Okay.
to see the
How
rate
many?
of it or how many people turn out.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, pick
Yes, okay.
right. Repeat it?
Yes, yes. We try with the morning schedule, to see how much people come. How many people come?
How many people will come?
Welcome. How
Will.
many people will come to the meetings? But actually, for now, it's only 3 to 5 on Sunday.
Saturday.
Saturday.
Every Saturday.
Saturday.
And we will keep checking, and it will be on the site. It will be on the
Yeah, well,
site.
I mean, in any case, it won't be during office hours,
Right,
because
no.
we know a lot of people
Yes.
work and
Right.
they cannot come if it's like at 10 in the morning or
Right.
3 in the afternoon on a weekday work day. So it will be there Saturday, I guess at this time, or in the evenings or early in the mornings. It also depends on Analita's
Yes.
schedule.
Yes. Yes.
So yeah, we can add. Also, I guess the advantage on a Saturday is that there is probably the traffic is not as bad. I don't know how in a work day, if you want to come here at 7, maybe the traffic is a little bit difficult.
For example, I have to work every Saturdays.
Oh.
8 to 1.
I have to work on every Saturday. I have to work
I have to work.
on every Saturday.
But in the
Every
morning.
Saturday.
Yes.
Every Saturday.
Every
Yes.
Saturdays I will work.
In the morning.
From 8 to 1.
Okay.
For example,
Okay.
if you put the meetings in the morning,
No, Saturday morning no,
Okay.
because either some people are working
Or
or
sleeping.
people are sleeping. Yeah, but
Sure.
people don't want to.
Sure.
Yeah, one or the other.
Right.
Mhm.
And you see,
What did you say?
and you.
I talked to the teacher.
And what about you?
And what about you? What
Yes.
about you?
I thought I said to the teacher that I feel nice because I can practice the listen and the talk, and it's difficult in Bogotá to practice English because the people who speak English, and I try to meet the similar groups, try to practice.
So you both need English for your work,
in English, what?
Yeah, do you need to speak English at work, or what do you need English for?
Because I like, I like.
You like
yes,
it?
Yes.
Mm.
It's, I like it.
Is it important for your work?
For my work?
Not
I
yet.
like.
For your life?
Yes.
Okay. Do you travel?
Yes. It's difficult.
Okay. And how about you?
I like English,
Okay.
and maybe I will to improve, or I will to improve
I want to improve.
my opportunities to work.
Okay, I want to improve my opportunities, my work opportunities.
My work opportunities.
Okay.
Because today or nowadays the companies need people who speak English. And it's a opportunity.
What do you think about the television with closed caption?
I recommend at both of your levels, no.
No?
No.
I think it's
No, because you're reading.
Yes.
And that's not the point. You need to listen, right? So for your level, for both of your levels, even for Alkin, no captions, none. No subtitles, none.
I thought it's better.
It's not, because it's a different skill. Reading and writing is literacy. Speaking is not, right? Think of it this way. How do children learn a language? And most children, even little ones, they go to school speaking some of their native language, right? Unless they have a speech impediment. They learn English by listening to their environment and by modeling what they hear. Right? It's only when you go to school do you learn to maybe parents start their children earlier to read, right? But in terms of writing, you learn at school. So the point is, you need to listen, right? And you need to speak. Okay? You don't need to read and write so much. Right? And both of you, I really suggest that you do not. It's not better. It's not. It's no, because you will only be reading. Right? So don't not at your level, both of you. Not Alkin either. Okay? Any other?
No, thank you so much for
Thank you,
coming.
guys. Yes, it was a pleasure.
Thank you. We hope to have new speakers every time to bring people who are either native English speakers,
or
like Malcolm. Malcolm is from England.
Yes.
So I guess you notice he has a different a British accent, which is different than the American accent. He's from London, close to London. And what we want is to bring a new speaker every time and have them talk about something, a different subject.
Yes.
Could be business or entertainment or art or whatever. They don't necessarily have to be native English speakers.
No.
They could be
fully bilingual
from China or from, we know that nowadays there are many foreigners who are coming to Bogota, or people who are Colombians who have lived abroad and who are coming back to Bogota because there is the economy is, there is a lot of investment and people want to come here and do business here. So I think we want to take advantage of that opportunity and bring a new person each time, which we believe it's a good thing because you also learn to understand different accents.
It's right, because people from all over the world speak English, and I've met people who've only studied with American teachers, or when they go to England they say, but I don't simply because they're not accustomed to different accents, right? But it's not to say the person doesn't speak English or they don't speak it well. As long as you're speaking standard English, but the accent will be different from around the world. I know somebody, a Colombian guy, and he has a conference every Wednesday from particularly with people from the Middle East, Jordan and oil countries because of his job. And he said to me, his listening has gotten much better, right? Because they are fully bilingual, they're not native, and they're Middle Eastern. So obviously the accent is going to be different. So it's good for people to understand the concept too, that English is not only British or American. English is international now.
It is the language of the world.
Yes.
So nowadays, usually, the main language that anybody should speak is English.
But that's what people are speaking, particularly for business.
So you have people from all over the world who are speaking English, and they have different ways of different accents, different expressions. Like in India, the accent is different, and so it's good to
accustom your ear to listening to different accents. So it's important. Right?
And also, we believe people from other countries have interesting things to say. You know, if we can bring somebody from, I don't know, the Philippines who is here. It could be also an interesting guest, because they can talk, I don't know, maybe about the Philippines or maybe about any experience that they've had.
Absolutely.
So it's more diverse.
Exactly. And any questions or anything at all, just always. There's a, have you guys seen the link, the meetup link? Because there's a forum where you can post comments. So if you have any questions or comments, go on the meetup Bogotá link and you can post. Feel free to post.
And also, I guess if during the week maybe you have a question about something, or you listen to something in the news, or you can bring the question and ask it here too.
All events in the end of the event have a comments area when you post the comments.